Welcome to the January Donovan Show. I'm so grateful today because I met Lee, and his perspective on wealth is something that I know women and our families, I think, need a little bit of a massive awareness to actually jumpstart a new movement in America to bring value, character, real awareness of what true wealth is. And so, Lee, welcome. I know that our women will be eagerly waiting for a male's perspective when it comes to wealth. So thank you so much for being here.
It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I always like to start our podcast because I think it breaks the ice for so many women. If you were to describe yourself in three words, how would you describe yourself?
Myself in three words:
Yes.
intentional.
Mm,
Let me back up. Intentionally value creating. Those are my three words.
intentionally value creating. I love it. Well, as you know already, that Lee is the author of Value Creation and has really kind of led the charge on what it means to for families to create value in our society as a means of creating true wealth. So, Lee, can you just take us back to maybe where did this come about? How did this, I would say, it sounds simple, but it's actually not common sense. Well, welcome to a lot of things I think that's happening, but
Oh
it's so
yeah.
simple. Yeah, how did you even think of what this really means? How did this all come about for you?
Yeah, I've been working on this concept of holistic value creation as a model for decades. And like we talked about before, I've started 8 companies from scratch now. I'm sure I'll start more. I've had exits from a few million to well into 9 figures. And I always did way better financially when I focused on holistic value creation, which is material, emotional energy, and spiritual value creation. So the material is really important for families. We need to maintain our lifestyle. For businesses, they need to stay in business. It's important to grow so we have a tool to do more things. However, the emotional energy value created, I personally believe that positive emotional energy is the scarcest commodity on the planet. It
Mm.
supercharges everything else we do. And in the spiritual value creation side, at its core, it's about connectedness. Our kids with themselves, the family with each other, communities are important to us, a higher power, whatever is important to each family. And it doesn't matter what your beliefs are, being connected. Like, we need more community today than ever. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that's causing a lot of problems out there. But that's really it. It's holistic value being created, whether it's an organization, and especially for the family and how they act around that.
Wow, it's so powerful because I think what's been modeled for us has only been wealth equals material, which is really a lot, has led to a lot of people not wanting it, kind of
Mm.
this disordered understanding, but also it's also what's, I would say, falsely advertised, and which is why I think I'm attracted to your message because you've built a company based on this model and have built hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, not really just focusing on the material. I mean, that's a really powerful message, I think, in our culture today. So tell me why you think so many, especially CEOs, because I have
Mm.
a lot of mothers that are listening to this who have, I would say, limiting beliefs about a lot of the wealth because CEOs right now have, it seems as though the main focus is material and there's a
Mm.
lack of fulfillment. In your experience, how have you seen this play out with the people that you surround yourself with?
Yeah, if you make it primarily about the material side, and again, it's super important. However, when it's not in balance with emotional energy and spiritual value creation, people don't feel very good. It just doesn't feel good. When you do it in balance, everybody feels better. When you look at an organization that's doing all three, and I've been doing this for a long time, do you want the relationship with your team members to be transactional? You come and you do this thing, I pay you, and you're done, and they're all focused on the money? Or do you want it to be this journey we're on together, developing, all of us together to create more and more value in the world? When you do that, you get so much more productive engagement. I'm not a fan of engagement surveys. I'm a fan of productive engagement where everybody's acting like the CEO of their own role within an organization, because we've set up a culture that's a value creation culture. It's holistic. And I mean, just if money's important, I've done this and generally get 2 to 3 times the multiples when I sell my companies because we're so valuable. We got there fast. It's a super believable story around where we're going. It feels amazing. I sold a company in 2016, had 500 employees. It was a aviation aftermarket business. We had 2,000 customers in 60 countries. I still stay in touch with at least 100 of those team members I worked with because of this value creation culture. And we're so connected. Emotional energy is about leaders and the environment they create and how they show up. The spiritual value creation on the connectedness side, what are the things we're doing to, get all the team members to be super connected and want to stay that way almost for life, right? And that's the right environment. It's way better than transactional.
Wow, it's so powerful, I honestly, and I think I'd love to even kind of pick your brain and how you've used that same model in your idea of family. Like, take me there. Should families aspire for wealth, and what would and should that look like if they did?
Well, I think they should aspire for value creation, and I think they should build holistic value creating legacy, which is material, of course. It's also emotional energy. What does it feel like to be part of the family? Do all the family members fully understand how they make the others feel? When you have a bad day, are you aware of it? And can you sort of have that dialogue in your head and go, wait, I can do better. I can be my best when I'm at my worst, and I understand that. I think that's a great way to kind of look at it. At least that's how I do. And then on the connectedness side, what are we doing? What are the rituals? Dinner table conversations, holidays, all of that to keep strengthening the family. And then as we build legacy over time, how are we building that with the current family and then passing it on and building that one generation to the next going in? So holistic. And I've got a short story around that, but does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I think it's also, our families are the fabric of our society and our nation. And so I really love that we're pivoting into this model that's very integrated, that the work and the family is essentially it's the same model, and I think our families are broken in America for multiple reasons. And I think that right now there is, I think, a new wave of saying, let's go back to meaning of family. What does it really mean to be human again? What does it really mean to be a family again? What does it mean to actually feel good about it or who we are and not just strive for this sort of utilitarian world that's
Mm.
leading to nowhere, So maybe you can just share a little bit of what you have created in your model for dinner table, because I think it's fascinating, uh, and what your vision is for American families through your work in the dinner table.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for asking. And to back up just a little bit, how we think about value creation in the United States is really lopsided. And I think a lot of folks value it is kind of in the money they have. And if they have to ask for help from family members for money, they feel bad about themselves and they're not looking at it holistically. So my sister with one of her kids, her daughter, challenging environment. She's now basically parenting the 4 grandkids, and her daughter hopefully will figure things out, and we're all supporting her. But to do that, I am paying to rent a home for the kids and my sister, and she felt bad out of the gate and saying, I should be able to do this. I'm so sorry. I have to ask it. Stop it for a second. The material piece that I'm contributing is nothing compared to the
Mhm.
emotional energy and the spiritual sort of connectedness value that you are holding this family together. Like that is amazing what you're doing. I have the smallest part. I admire what you're doing. You're contributing more than I am. And then fast forward a few months, and she's talking about it with confidence. This is what I'm doing for the family, and I own this job for the family. It's like, yes, that's incredible. And I've got other family members that it's all about the money, which is kind of ridiculous, yeah, to think that way. So that's awesome. And all of the kids, all 4 of the kids, 5.5 to 16, are participating in the family. I call it the family financial forecast. So there's a budget and categories, and every one of the kids, her grandkids, have a line item that they're tracking the expenses at the end of the month. They add it all up. Did we meet or beat?
Wow.
So that is really cool. Like they're all in the game to do it. And The reason that I became the interim CEO and now the actual CEO of Dinner Table, and you can learn about what we do at dinnertable.com, is I live in Arizona, and probably starting about 8, 9 years ago, I got involved with trying to improve conditions for K-12 students to learn, and in particular, learn the purpose of an education is to create value in the world.
Mm.
And what I realized when you go to the state legislature, it's really pretty much all adults fighting over money. Who gets this contract? Where does this go? It's not about the kids. And I thought, you know what? We need to build a community of parents raising kids to create value in the world that will get more involved with school boards and make the right decisions when they vote to put people in office that are really making it about the kids, not about themselves and rigging the game in some way. And so with Dinner Table, the vision is I would love to have millions of families over the next 3 years in our communities, raising kids to create value in the world. Only started in April building this model. So I basically took this model I've been thinking about putting in a nonprofit, just put it right in the middle of this company.
Mm.
And starting in April from 0 families, we have, I think this morning it was 16,200 plus parents that are in our Dinner Table family community. And then we have quite a number of those that are in our Family Elite community, our Family Elite Plus community. We're taking people through foundations courses so they can start thinking about it this way. I started my own community in Phoenix where I'm doing it in person. A lot of these communities are online, but they're the parents of the kids in the Black Mothers Forum micro schools. And one of the parents was telling me the story. Yeah, he just got an apartment, but he'd been living with his kids in a car for the last month. Low income families are really struggling. They need the help. So this is all about creating value. Even if you start from negative, you
Mm.
can build on family legacy, holistic value creation, and go into the future. And the last thing I'll say on this is, and I have so much to say, is we're not creating, in my opinion, 10% of the value we could be creating in the United States, not even 10%. And the largest bucket or category of pent-up value creation potential is in low and middle income families because these kids have the drive. The upper middle income and above, it's almost like a fun family activity when they do stuff. There's really isn't the drive, but I see this hunger and drive. I really want to take that and bring it to the next level, not just the United States, but really all over the world.
Wow. That's really beautiful. You said many beautiful things. And one thing that popped out is the purpose of education is to teach children to bring value. That is, we have a broken education system. Children graduate, in my opinion, decades of education without knowing who they are, their purpose, and how they're supposed to create value in the world. I mean, it's really sad, and gratefully, institutions like yours are supplementing the current model, and obviously you're fighting it from the ground up. And I just think that this is the beginning. And secondly, you said something that's really kind of brought my curiosity. The poor and middle class family actually have more drive. It's so true. And it is true because the wounds lead to our compass towards our contribution. It has been for me. My first level of awareness was in the slums of the Philippines. And my drive, and I was always told that money was bad, therefore you shall not make it, and that money would not make you a great mom. What I should have been told was that wealth integrated with the emotional and the spiritual component is actually necessary to rebuild America and to rebuild our culture, which is why I'm passionate about the importance of integrated wealth, because I also see families who have almost given up the importance of the material value of wealth because they think it robs them of the spiritual and the emotional value. And I think, well, now, guess who has a lot of the material money fueling into America? People who don't have value. It's people who don't have a sense of a spiritual purpose. And it's their money that's fueling our education system, Hollywood politics. And I think I want mothers to wake up and say, don't be afraid to build the right ordered wealth that's integrated with both emotional and spiritual, that's actually going to be necessary to rebuild our country. So I honor you for this work because we need to wake families up.
Mm.
Do you see that maybe the robbery of the integrated understanding of wealth has kept families more poor and also afraid to aspire for great integrated wealth?
Yes, and the reason it's happening, and I think this is part of the problem that we're solving for, kids today are extrinsically motivated, not intrinsically motivated. When we're focused on creating value, it puts a shield up to protect us from all this outside noise that's going on, and even the internal talk that isn't helpful, which, almost everybody has to some degree. Well, same thing for parents. And so if we focus on the value that we want to create in the world and whatever is going on around us that's telling us that this is bad or that's bad, and you'll only be good when you do what we want you to do. If you're focused on the value and if what they're saying has some basis in what you're doing, okay, appropriately change. 95+% of the time, it doesn't stay focused on actually doing it. And you're touching on something that's super important to me. When I think about maybe the single biggest deficit in the world today is leadership that is both capable and moral.
Oh,
And
so good.
first, like, what does capable mean? If we look at elected leaders, just let's take the United States, but you could take any government. What should their job be? In my view, the simplest way I can say it is their job is to continually create better conditions to work, live, learn, and play at a lowering relative cost over time. That's it. And so we want leaders capable of doing that. If you just took education, the thing we're talking about here, more money goes into it every year, and yet the literacy scores for kids are falling every single year. So they're not capable, it's not working. And then you look at decisions that are being made. Unfortunately, politics in the United States today it's not all of them, but it's mostly a culture of rigging the game to take value out of the world. And I believe if you're going to really practice virtue, and I do my best to practice this every day, a lot of the world virtue signals, either intentionally or unintentionally, mostly unintentionally, more than practicing virtue, but create objectively measurable value. And at the same time, and this to me is really important, we have to push back on things taking value out of the world, at least in proportion. And the biggest thing most people can do is just shine a flashlight on things that are taking value out of the world. We've been trained to not speak up. Like, it's not polite to speak up. And it's letting the people taking value out of the world, intentionally out of the world, run even faster. And the best thing we can do to stop it, call it out every time, not with negative emotions or energy around it. That's not creating value. Let's get back to creating value. And if we can increase the number of people objectively creating value in the world, just the math is going to shrink those that are trying to take it out of the world. The ones taking it out of the world, and this is my view of it, they never stop. Like, they just keep going. They're relentless. And then folks like you and I and so many of your listeners, all of your listeners likely, we're creating value. And when things get really bad, we turn and pay attention to it. As soon as we get on top of it, we go back to creating value, our families, our businesses. The other side never stops. We also, I believe, need to incorporate never stopping shining a flashlight on things taking value out of the world so they can't keep building up in these waves over really the millennia, right? All of recorded history.
I just love what you're saying because basically what you're saying is fierce leadership requires accountability. Like we can't let it go anymore. And honestly, there's a quote that's haunting me and it says, violence, the problem with violence is not violence, is those that stay silent in the face of violence.
Mm.
Violence against America. And I'm not just talking about the physical violence in our cities, which are yes, but really the immoral violence being
Mm.
struck in Americans today. And I honestly looked at it and I thought, I'm culpable. I'm responsible for my own silence. And it's not that you don't want to, it's that they are relentless. And I think because there's no morals behind it, that it's like, why get in the arena? It is painful to feel like you're attacked. I mean, look at Donald Trump, and look at the people. And it's not even a Republican or a Democrat. It's really about a moral life. That's what you're basically saying. And so the other thing what you're saying is accountability, but it's the courage. It's the courage to stay silent in the face of an immoral culture and say, I'm not going to just turn my head to the health industry, to the education, to politics, to Hollywood. Like, you know, I find that what you're doing is essentially a ground, you're part of the groundswell, which is a reason why I really wanted to hear, because it's not, we are at leadership that is rooted in virtue, that's capable, but also successful, but also, listen, I've got a heart. Like, we don't see enough of that, Lee, and the world needs to see it. And the world needs to see it from both men and women, because I find that what I'm seeing in our culture right now is there is a leadership crisis. Men have been emasculated, women have lost their decency and ability to be human and women, and there's no sacredness of family life. We are destroying ourselves from the inside out. However, men like you give me great hope, because honestly, countries are saved by a few a few great men and women who's like, no more, no thank you. And I know we're sort of wrapping up. I'd love to hear your vision for what kind of leadership does America need? And it's kind of twofold. And what kind of family should we raise to rebuild a stronger and prosperous America?
Boy, that is such a big question. And I go back to capable and moral. And if I'm going to break it down into something that I think connects the dots even better, capable is you're doing something that the customers, let's just take the country, that the citizenry will benefit from, whether it's education or health or security and all of that. And you can actually do that and improve it at a lowering relative cost over time. The morality side of it is uh, you're making decisions that create net positive value. So, for example, if you did something around the health and well-being of the citizenry, and a bunch of large companies, big pharma, whatever, made a ton of money, but you took 10 times more, or I'd say even greater than that, out of the world, that's not net positive value. So the morality side is making decisions that create net positive value for the citizenry, and it's material, emotional, and spiritual. And let's get from the 10% value we're creating as a country, let's get it to 50%, 5x today. Why not get it to 80%? Like, let's go for it.
Mm.
There's so much here, and we need leaders that talk about that. Like, this
Yeah.
is what's possible, and let's encourage everybody to have these wildly productive, energizing conversations and how to get there. Now, you would think the most important thing in the country is politics because that's all you hear about, right? You never hear what do we need to do to create better conditions for the citizenry? What you hear is what do they need to do to win? That's the wrong conversation, all the way around it. And then because of that, culturally in the United States, what I've noticed is people will look at something and find one little thing wrong. Like they're not looking for the value. And I would say let's look for the value in everything that we're doing. Even if somebody is not acting in a good way, we can look for the value in how we modify our language to stop that stuff or shine a better flashlight on it in the future. But let's look for the value. But in the culture we have today, here's one little thing wrong, so they're all wrong. Like, for example, you could say, oh, religion throughout the recorded history did this bad thing, so all religion bad. No, you know, that like no way. Let's listen for value and let's build on it going forward, and let's enjoy this value creation journey. And by the way, we can't develop without struggle. Some effort to improve character, physical health, well-being, whatever it is. So learn to value the struggle in that. But that's how I think about leadership for this country, capable and moral for those reasons,
Oh.
and engaging in this amazing value creation journey together. That's what we should be doing.
Well, I think I feel hopeful about, I think, Americans waking up. I do. I think that evil has been so palpable, or morality has been so palpable, or the lies, that I think people are actually sort of fed up. And I really hope that we do our part as mothers, as women, to say, what's my role in creating value consistently, so that we really hold a higher standard for our leaders, for ourselves, for our children, for our families. I'll give you sort of the last word. Do you feel hopeful about our country?
I feel super hopeful. And the second part of your question, what can families do? It's the foundation of everything. That's why I am CEO of Dinner Table. and let's build millions of families creating value as a family, holistic value, and guiding the culture in the country, not letting a few politicians do it.
We need good people. Bring back morality in politics and in every arena of life. So, Lee, thank you so much for your heart. That's what I honestly see is that in spite of your success, what shines through is your heart, that you have it ordered and that you're using your gifts and your talents to do what is right and what's noble. And yes, you've achieved great success, but what good is that if you brought no one else around you? And what you've done is built an empire of people who understand this in a very integrated way. And I'm really grateful to know you, and I'm excited for our listeners to just tap into the dinner table. I would say philosophy. I think that's really what you've created, and how they can incorporate it in their family so that we will be consistently bringing good in our culture. So thank you, Lee, so much for being here and for being who you are. I'm truly grateful for what you bring to this world.
All right. Thank you, January. And thanks for keeping this conversation going. And let's build a better culture.
We're just beginning. Thank you all for all you women out there. Remember, work has just begun. Value begins with us understanding our own value as women, and that's how we bring value to our families. We are the catalyst towards rebuilding our culture. So till then, have a great week, and I'll see you till the next podcast. If you like this practical life training in the Women's School, click subscribe so you can get access to more of our practical life training. Also, comment below and let us know what you think so we can hear from you. Don't forget to like this video and share it, because our vision here in the Women's School is to give you practical life training to help you become who you were created to be for such a time as this.